Hey guys, so I got a comment asking whether I'd ever consider doing a carnivore or a ketovore type diet again, and so I gave it a try. But I mean, long term, no, I'm not gonna do that long term. But I do want to kind of. It's always been on my mind to give it a try, at least short term, just as a comparison for when I did it. Carnivore I did for only about a month 5 years ago, and at the time I had to take between 10 to 15 units of insulin, which I think sounds is pretty common for type 1 diabetics. Um, then I continued on like a ketovore type diet over the next couple of years at that point. And for me, what I noticed is that my insulin requirements started to increase. So it went from 10 to 15 to 15 to 20, and then ranged pretty consistently around 20, even though with very minimal carbs, like net carbs of less than 20 units or 20 grams. So, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, and that could just be for me. I just think it's kind of the body's natural reaction to eating low carb. Not saying it's a bad thing. It's just what your body or what my body naturally did. So, and diet as a whole, as far as my perspective on diet, I don't see diet as a way to heal type 1 diabetes. I don't think that can be done through diet. It hasn't been done. The way I look at diet is that, and I'm not saying it's not important at all. I do focus, I believe in my own diet. I think everybody has their own opinion for what's right for them. And I think it's really important, but I feel like diet more can act as a block for your ability to heal spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And so it's very important in that regard that you have a healthy diet just to get rid of those blocks and distractions. So it is a very important thing, but the diet itself won't heal, at least type 1 diabetes. So that's my perspective on it. There's no judgment one way or the other. Everybody has their own thing, and and not to keep touching back on spirituality, but if you get in touch with that side, I feel like it just kind of naturally flows and comes to you and in the perfect way. So, because I'd have to say, my whole life, I don't know. I mean, I've considered my diet pretty good the majority of my life, but the past 5 years, it definitely changed. And I would say, even if I'm not like a big supporter of the keto type diet long term, it definitely kind of put a spotlight on things that I wasn't even aware of, as far as cravings and addictions that I didn't really consider before. Because when you take that stuff out, then you're like, oh wow, I actually do crave those things, and it can result in some binging. So I said I went ketovore for a couple years, but that's with like every month or two kind of cheating, and or not kind of cheating. It was some, not horrible, but it was just this like huge craving. So just for that fact alone, it was beneficial for me to kind of work through that. So anyways, getting to the results. So like I said, when I did it 5 years ago, I took between 10 to 15 units, and then it slowly increased as I continued that type of diet. So I was hoping, obviously, for something better this time, and I did. It was good. The one thing, because it's always been in the back of my mind to try this type of diet again, just for a short period of time for comparison. But I've always wanted to line it up with when my body is seemingly producing more insulin. For example, the beginning of February, I talked in my last video that there was about a week or so that I only took 10 units for 150 of net carbs. So if I would have switched right then and there to a carnivore diet, could I have gone without taking any insulin at all? Possibly. I doubt it, but maybe like later on, a few days into it, maybe I could have gotten by without it. But So it would have been interesting. I think every time it happens, though, these like quick spurts of insulin production, it's right after I go grocery shopping and I have all this fruit and I don't want it to go bad, so I never do it. So when I got this comment, I actually was at the end of eating all my fruit, and so I just figured I'd get right into it. So I started on the 12th, March 12th, going, and I went carnivore. I only did it for about a week. I went carnivore for 7 days, and then I went 2 days of keto / carnivore. And I'll post this chart here showing the results and how much insulin. And I'll just kind of go through day by day here. So the first day took 9 units, and I have a tracker of how many calories I have. I'm not like, I don't know the protocol anymore or if it's changed. I know when I saw it, was looking into carnivore 5 years ago, I think they said you should aim for like 70% of your macros from fat. I have never been able to do that. I don't know, like, unless I'm eating so much butter, but I didn't have a tallow or anything else, so it was pretty much butter or the fat in the steak that I was eating. So I didn't really focus too much on that. So on average during the 7 days of carnivore, I was pretty much eating 60% protein and only 40% fat, and most of that was butter. My meals were pretty much steak, butter, ground beef, and eggs for this week. So that's that. And calories, I think on average probably around 2,200, but I have them listed by day there. So anyways, first day, 9 units. And so going into this, just real quick, I was taking 20 to 25 units of insulin for around 150 to 200 net carbs for the week prior or so. So it wasn't great, but it wasn't as good as what I talked about in my last video. But it wasn't horrible either. So it was kind of like a middle of the road as far as if I view it as how well my pancreas is working and producing insulin. It was just kind of an average period, I guess, for me. So I wasn't expecting much going into this, but it was still pretty good. So yeah, after the first day, so first day was 9 units. Second day was 6 units. Third day I got down to 4.5 units. And then it increased. Now I started to have bacon on the 15th. Not saying anything bad about bacon, but it could possibly have an impact on insulin resistance, not sure, insulin sensitivity. Again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm just saying there's some foods that your body will naturally do whatever it does, right? And I also don't think, on the flip side of that, I don't think focusing on a diet that makes you extremely insulin sensitive should be the goal either. I think that comes at a cost. There are, I know there's so many strong opinions on one way or the other, and I know one diet results in higher insulin sensitivity. I don't think that's the goal, especially not for healing type 1 diabetes. You're managing, okay, I can see both sides, sure, but from my perspective, when I'm really just focused on healing, I don't care one way or the other if it's going to impact it that bad. I think your overall diet is going to, as long as it's overall healthy, you're going to be okay. So yeah, whatever. But anyways, I did have bacon that day, quite a bit. I had bacon in the morning with eggs, and then I had like ground beef hamburgers with. I did have cheese throughout the week too, here and there, not too much, but I just made like a burger with cheese and bacon on it, no bread. And so it went up to 6, and then the following day, I think I had bacon in the morning, and then I stopped, but it went up to 8 units the next day. Then it came back down to 5 units, and then the last day it came down to 3, which is great. Like that's wonderful. And maybe I could have kept going to see if it would have stayed down there, stayed that low as far as insulin requirements go, but I'm not sure. I still wanted to. I set it to a week, and I did a week, and that was it. So, but then when I introduced some carbs back in, you'll see I got away with just only taking 4.5 units the next 2 days, and so that's really good too. So I'll go through the blood sugar, and I'll pop this on the screen. Let me get to it real quick. I'll kind of skip ahead here. Oh, and a quick reminder, I take Novolin R insulin, which actually works really well. That's one reason it kind of lined up perfectly 5 years ago. I started taking Novolin R insulin then and started doing carnivore, keto type diet. And so that insulin works well with this as far as it's not very instant and it takes a while to accumulate. I'll put a chart up. It doesn't start working until a half an hour. And I think the peak, I don't know if this chart is the best representation. It seems like it goes up kind of quickly in that chart. I don't think it goes up that quickly, but at least the duration, it lasts around 8 hours. And the peak is usually starts at around 1.5 and goes through to maybe 4 or 5 hours and gradually decline. So that type of insulin works well with this type of diet, especially a higher protein diet that'll take time to be converted into glucose into your blood. So just a reminder that's the only insulin I take is Novolin R. I don't take any additional background insulin. So the total insulin that I'm listing in this chart is the total insulin I'm taking throughout the day. Okay, sorry. So I just had to rewind back to the 12th, and I won't go through them, but I'll there's a couple of times that I just kind of want to discuss as I flip through them. So I'll flip through them and I'll kind of record it on screen to show you. But my blood sugars, for the most part, stayed in the low 100s. It was rare that it was ever lower than 100, which is a little annoying. Just because if you're not diabetic and you're doing carnivore, you're generally going to always be less than 100. So I hovered, in the low 100s. On the 13th, went up to 174. That was right after a yoga class, and it was pretty intense, and there were like so many damn planks, and my shoulders were on fire. So when I got home from that, I had a high blood sugar. And then the 15th, it went up. Was that when I was eating? Yeah, that's when I started eating bacon. It just kind of ranged in the 130s, 140s, and then I did lift, and after lifting, it got up to 152. But outside of those times, that it stayed pretty regularly in the low 100s. So I'll just keep going forward. And yeah, the rest of the time I'll just flip through. There's nothing really to talk about. What I do like is later on, mainly the morning times, because when I'm taking so little insulin, I take it late afternoon, early evening for dinner, and I don't take any more insulin until I wake up the next morning. So I was really happy with waking up with decent blood sugars in the morning. Nothing like where they should be, as far as they should be probably less than 90. But for me, the whole dawn effect with type 1 diabetics, it's nice to see them lower in the morning. So yeah, that's it. I think that's it. So overall, it was good. I'm really happy that obviously I got down to 3 units. That's better than the 10 to 15 units I had to take 5 years ago. And that kind of falls in line with how much insulin I think I'm producing based on the C-peptide test. So I had a 0.7 C-peptide. This is 3 months ago now. I probably will get it tested again within the next month or so. My kind of conversion formula for that, just made up based on some good assumptions, I think, is that 0.7 generally, for the most part, if you keep a 0.7 peptide throughout the entire day, it should, for me at least, result in 7 units of total insulin production throughout the entire day. So that kind of correlates with these numbers. So I got down to 3. Maybe I would have needed 10, but I'm producing 7 units of insulin throughout the day, so now I only need 3. It kind of lines up with that. So, yeah, so it's all around good. It's kind of I like doing the comparisons just to track progress. But ultimately, I think C-peptide is really the only thing, because insulin resistance can come and go and just change things drastically based on the stress level and whatever you're doing, or exercise, whatever. So it's not the best measurement as far as just looking at how much insulin you're taking, because that can vary. At least for me, specifically over the past 2 years, I've talked about it in my previous videos. It's been wild. Never experienced before in my life with type 1 diabetes, these crazy swings. So the C-peptide test is kind of the main thing that I use for comparison. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully that's helpful to anybody and just shows some progress. But thanks for watching. All right, see ya.